Hello, it's Scott with Zenvi AI, and welcome to the Systems Are Sexy podcast. Today's guest is Todd Dexheimer with Endurus Capital. Todd has scaled a multifamily investment company from humble beginnings into a large real estate operation focused on apartments, capital raising, and long-term investing. So in this episode, we're going to talk about scaling with limited resources, raising capital. Many people approach real estate the wrong way, and the operational lessons that come from building a real business. So welcome to the show, Todd. How we doing?
Doing excellent. Thanks for asking me. And those sounds like some fun topics to get into. So I'm excited.
Yeah. I am always interested the kind of origin story with people. And I know you, when we spoke earlier, you mentioned about starting with very little capital, you get about 30K a year. I'm curious for people that may be in a similar situation, just starting out, like what did the early days look like and how did you guys scale from there?
Yeah, exactly what you said. Like I was a high school teacher, so wasn't making a ton of money. We had my wife and I had a little bit of money saved up, not a ton. We started with about $15,000 or so. Um, bless her heart, she is the one that allowed me to take that, take like basically our whole life savings and plow it into real estate and start this journey. So I was from there that we started and we kept on recycling the money. I would buy a house and figure out how to refinance it, take that money, move it into the next one. This was during 2000. This was 2008. So 2008, 2009. So like the world was on fire. Everybody was running the opposite way. Like, I don't know, these deals seem good, but everybody's telling me I'm stupid, I'm crazy if I'm buying these things, but it just felt good. So I was buying and rentals. I didn't want to do anything other than build a big rental portfolio. That was my dream to begin with. But quickly I ran out of really more than money. I ran out of credit because at the time, again, the world was on fire. Like it was hard to get loans. And I was able to get my 4 loans in my personal name and then couldn't get any more. So I started flipping houses and flipped a bunch of houses from 2015 between the rentals and the flips and all that kind of stuff. Did hundreds of transactions.
Got it. So you had mentioned about maybe buying duplexes or flipping houses may not be the right path for most people. Why do you believe that? And what do you think people should be focusing on instead?
Yeah. So I think that most people see buying a single family or duplex as the path, or a small apartment, whatever, as the path to get into real estate because that's what their uncle did or their dad did or their whoever. That's just what they know. And it sounds easy. Like I can go buy a duplex. That sounds great. But what most people don't realize is, first of all, that duplex is just not going to make you that much money. So you got to buy, instead of one, you got to buy 5, you got to buy 10, you got to buy 20, right? You actually got to buy a handful of them to actually create real financial freedom. Now, if you just want one duplex, whatever, it's not going to take all that much work and you're going to make a couple bucks and fine. Like it's a decent investment. But what I think most people do is they're like, oh, I'm going to create this financial freedom. I got to buy a bunch of single families or duplexes or whatever. And they want to get to it seems like there's this magic number people talk about is 10. I got to get 10 of them. And that's going to create this financial freedom where I'll be set. But what they don't realize is it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. And what most people are trying to do is they're trying to actually create financial freedom. And instead, they're building themselves their own job. And while they're working in their current job, they're probably making decent money doing that, if you enjoy it, especially. And then you got your, spouse and maybe your kids and family, whatever. You enjoy doing things on the weekends, but then you build this trap for yourself. So I think most people don't understand really what they're getting into. And that's where you hear the people that are like, oh, the tenants, the toilets, and the trash. Oh, I hate rentals. I used to have one. It's that crabby uncle at the party that's like, you don't want to get into this ridge rentals. They just take up. Well, yeah, because they thought they were buying a dream and instead they bought a nightmare. What do I think most people should do? I think most people should passively invest in real estate. And there's multiple different ways to do that. But I think that's where most people actually want to be. They just don't know that that's even a possibility.
Yeah. And what does that look like for people? Let's say someone's interested, like, hey, I don't want to go down the duplex route now that I heard you say that. Where should they look? And what does that involve?
Yeah. So there's a few different options. I mean, option number one, which to me is not really real estate investing, but that's to, invest in a REIT. That's a stock. You're not getting the tax benefits. It's a nice stock. Don't get me wrong, but that's a stock. If you want to invest in real estate, you can invest passively in a syndication. We run syndication. So basically all that is you're pooling people's money together, pooling up. It's you, Scott, it's your buddies, it's my buddies. We all pool our money together into the deal. And then somebody's running that deal. And in our case, we are running and operating the deal. We're experts at it. We've got a big track record, blah, blah, blah. So we're running that deal and then we share in the profits. So that's one way. Another way, there's multiple ways, but there's also all kinds of, kind of other types of funds where they're doing different types of real estate, where you're loaning on real estate. You're kind of becoming the bank. And then I would say the last one, this one's a little bit more active and can be a little bit more confusing. So you definitely need a little bit of time, but buying like a triple net lease type of thing. But this is very capital intensive. So I'm talking like a Dollar Tree, uh, Walgreens, CVS. You're buying the building that they're in, and they've got a big long lease. Pretty hands off, but usually pretty capital intensive to get into.
I mean, obviously you've gone from where you started to where you guys are now. How has your approach changed as the company scale? Like, how do you look at the business now as you guys have grown over time?
Boy, I mean, that's a really big question. I'll give you probably maybe story to get you to where we started. So when I first started, I was doing pretty much everything, right? And so here's a perfect story. I'm driving, I got my car. It's a Nissan Altima, 2005 Nissan Altima. And this thing is full of concrete bags, 2x4s, you name it. Like, thing is full. It's riding at like a 45-degree angle. Obviously, I'm exaggerating, but I'm riding down the road. The back end is pretty much hit the concrete, right? And I go over this railroad track bed and I hear all kinds of boom, pop, like, holy crap, what happened? And my car's and luckily just on the other side of the railroad track, I think they strategically placed it there because it's a pretty big bump on that railroad track, is a service shop. So I limp into the service shop, and $7,000 later, and whatever, a week or so goes by, and I got my car back. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way. So I started to figure out different ways to really, how do I create and form a team? And that was really that aha moment for me, like total paradigm shift. I got to have other people that can do things. I mean, how we've scaled is really, I wouldn't, look, we're very strategic and thoughtful and slow on our team and who we add, but it's been about, adding the right people at the right time and trying to really strategically think about that. Not adding too many people so we have a ton of overhead and we're forced to do bad deals, but adding people when the time is right. That's always a tricky balance, Scott. It's like the hardest thing in my opinion, is like, when do we add somebody versus is it just adding too much overhead right now?
Amen. Yeah, every business owner, entrepreneur has asked that question. And sometimes it's just taking that leap and hoping you bring in the right person, because
Yeah.
if you hit that right, man, it makes your life so much easier, because they can kind of be the yin to your yang, and the things that you don't want to deal with, they can deal with, and you can focus on other things. And it just takes that right person.
Yeah. I mean, Scott, like, I would say, I think every time we've waited too long. And part of that's just our cautious nature, just being cautious is like, I don't want to, but I say we've typically waited too long. It's not like, oh my gosh, we shouldn't have hired that person. How are we going to pay this person? It's like, man, what were we doing without this person? I can't believe we waited this long. Look at the results.
I know. And I can sleep through the night now. It's pretty exciting stuff, right? So I mentioned the intro about raising capital. I know that's something that people struggle with or intimidated by, and I'm curious, what have you learned about building trust with investors over time to help you raise capital?
Yeah. So I think the perfect way you actually pose that question or led into that question is that most people are worried about it. They're nervous about it. Just don't be nervous about it. You got to go out there and start talking to people. I think that holds more people back, is they're just scared about that thought process. And I don't want to feel like I'm selling to people, or who am I now? Oh, yeah. whatever the excuses are, just go out there and start talking to people. And I get it. Like I was the excuse. I did the same thing. Like I didn't want to talk to anybody about my business. Now, just figure out like how do you position your business? When somebody asks you what you do, how do you position it? Like look, I own an investment real estate company, and that usually leads it to at least a small conversation. Oh, what's that mean? And then I can easily dive into what I do without really sounding salesy. So I think it's just explaining and educating to people and just being out there and doing it, not being scared about it and understanding, look, here's where I think the change in my brain happened, where I became fairly decent at raising capital, is when I said, look, I'm not asking anybody for money. I am providing people an opportunity to invest in something that they're looking for. And if they're not looking for it, they're not my investor, right? It just is what it is. And maybe they don't know that they're looking for it. And eventually they're going to be excited about investing with us. And that's the talking about it. That's the just the getting in front of people about it in a non-salesy, just a conversational ways. I think that's so many people like, I don't want to ask for money. Well, that's good. You shouldn't ask for money. You got to go out there and I'm providing an opportunity. Look, what I have is a good investment opportunity that can make great returns, that's tax beneficial to a lot of people. And what you have is money needing a good home that's going to make good returns, that's going to be secured by something solid and not going to lose, right? So that's what you're looking for. And I have the opportunity to provide that. And so if we match up properly, great. If we don't, no big deal. Right.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think it's about mindset because it is intimidating. And once you kind of come from that position of strength and knowing that I have something that people need, it makes that conversation a lot easier as opposed to trying to sell somebody because no one wants to do that.
Yeah. And for me as a real estate investor, now it depends on what you're trying to raise for, whatever. But for me as a real estate guy, I think pretty much everybody wants real estate in their portfolio in one way, shape, or form. Everybody values it. They know the value that it brings. And so everybody wants to have a piece of real estate in some way, shape, or form. And if I can be that solution for a lot of people, then I've done a good job, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to talk about operations with you because I think that's something that you had mentioned about hiring. It's such an important part of any business because everybody tries to run lean and a lot of people say that, but it's not always the case. And it's just hard to manage it all. And I'm curious what maybe systems or habits have helped you manage growth without the business getting chaotic? What kind of systems or processes do you have in place you can still manage everything?
Yeah. We try to make things fairly simple of what we use. So there's so many different tech tools out there right now, and tech is amazing. Don't get me wrong, but you also have to understand what tech you're using and why you're using it. I think I would say I fight it a little bit, maybe too much sometimes, but some people just try to throw every piece of tech crap into their company and it causes confusion and there's no synergy between them. So what we really try hard to do is when we're looking for a solution to a problem, we're going to look at all the if it's a tech solution. We're going to look at all those solutions and we're going to try to find the one that's going to solve the most amount of problems as seamlessly as possible and not just try to add another tool that I have to go, oh, crap, where do I find that? What do I do? I don't even know how to work this tool system. I've been a part of like groups or whatever, and they add all these things. And I'm like, guys, like, why do we have to have, this WhatsApp and this other communication device and then this and this? And it's like, guys, let's just do one thing. So I think that's really important for me, at least, is just try to streamline it. Boy, I mean, some of the things that have really been awesome for us, I mean, just the systematized, like how things are, especially like you talk property management, right? It's so easy now to properly communicate with tenants, with maintenance people. And there's tools out there. There's AI that really helps a lot of that communication go well, especially with tenants. There's no excuse to not have somebody, whether it's AI agent or whatever, be able to answer an email, a text message, a phone call, communicate somehow with a prospective resident. Like there's so many tools out there right now that you can get your hands on. To me, that's huge. And the companies that aren't embracing it are going to be left behind really quickly. It's going to be hard for them to find residents.
Amen. Yeah, I agree with you there. All right, I'm going to ask you a tougher one here. If you could automate one part of your business, maybe there's a part of your business that you guys haven't figured out the right way to figure it out, or like, hey, there's got to be a better way to do this. If you could automate one part of your business, what would it be?
Renovations. How do we make it? And I don't know if that'll ever fully be automated, but how do we make it to where it's just a simple process where you can almost plan it and then push the button and we know everybody's going to be in the right place at the right time, just a smooth operation. And I think one of the biggest difficulties of the automation is that you've got so many people involved at different levels and that are part of different companies. And so you're trying to get people to utilize your system and they just don't want to, right? So that's the biggest challenge is how do we truly make this a smooth process that everybody can follow to where we get these projects done on time and we're not fighting with each other, all that confusion that happens with the construction project.
Right. What about, let's say someone's listening, they're interested and they don't really know where to start. What advice would you give to somebody trying to build a real estate business today, but maybe they feel like they're starting too late, they don't have enough capital, there's always these excuses. What would you say to someone like that?
Well, the first and most important thing is figure out what you want to do. Understand why are you interested in starting it? Are you interested in starting a real estate business, as you put in your question? Are you interested in starting a real estate business, or are you interested in being a real estate investor? As I mentioned before, most people want to be real estate investors. They don't want to be real estate business owners. And if you want to be a real estate investor, then invest passively in, a syndication or triple net or whatever. If you truly want to run a real estate business and own and operate a business, this is a business that takes a lot of work, and don't let anybody fool you that it does plenty of work. And if you want to do that, that's great. I think that's phenomenal. Is it too late? No. Do you have a capital problem? Maybe, but there's always a solution, whether it's your money or other people's money or creative financing, which is other people's money as well. There's a lot of sellers out there, right? I just talked with a guy the other day, and he purchased several office buildings last year, purchased about a half a dozen of them last year. And out of those buildings, only one of them, he actually used his own capital. The rest of them, he did what's called a 721 exchange, where he actually had the seller was the equity in the deal. So he got new financing on the deal, and the seller actually stayed in as his partner in the deal. Now he's specifically targeting retirees, so it works. But there's always different ways to get into deals. So figure out that. So if you want to start a real estate business, you need to figure out what you want to do and then start attacking it about what are my limitations? What do I need to know? And how can I get beyond those limitations as quickly as possible? Who do I need to bring on my team? Do I need partners? Do I have a money problem? Do I have a deal problem? How do I solve those problems? So, but I don't think it's too late. I think that's nonsense. There's always opportunity out there, and there's always a way to get started in the business.
That's great.
That's a really tough question, because I could totally answer that, Scott, by the way, a totally different way, and it'd still be probably decent advice. Like, there's so many different ways to skin the cat. Just know that you have to start getting into the corridor and believe that you can be a part of the business if you want to.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got to get over the imposter syndrome. It's not easy. Everyone's trying to figure it out too, so don't feel like it's just you. I was going to ask you about the next couple
even at this stage of my career, Scott, like I'm always trying to figure out how do we continue to get better, and how do we buy more properties? I mean, we're at a roadblock here. We haven't bought a property in a long time now, which is a long time for some people, a long time for us, right? It's been 9 months. We haven't purchased a property. So what are we doing? How are we figuring out how to do business and grow our company? Because we still want to grow. We don't want to just not do deals. So I don't care what stage of your career you're in, you're always going to hit imposter syndrome, roadblocks, whatever feeling of, man, I thought it was going to be way easier. I was hoping it'd be easier.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, speaking of that, what does the next couple of years look like for you guys? What's the vision for Endurus Capital, and what are you excited about?
Yeah, look, so for Endurus Capital, we want to continue to grow. I mean, we're looking to purchase more assets. So our main focus right now is 100+ unit apartment buildings. We want to grow. We brought in all of our property management We brought property management in-house over the last couple of years, and we've seen amazing results with that. So you talk about streamlining your business. I mean, that's really helped us streamline our business is bringing that property management in-house and really controlling things. So we want to continue growing that aspect of the business, bringing more of the construction into the business and growing that aspect. And then, of course, purchasing more properties. We're excited. I think multifamily, which is our niche, our bread and butter, the future is bright. There's not a lot of construction happening. People are staying in apartments longer and longer and longer, for multiple reasons, affordability being one of them, but there's many other reasons why people are staying in apartments for longer periods of their life. So the demand is there, the supply is going down and has been going down. So I think there's a ton of opportunity in the industry. I'm really excited for what the next 2 or 3 years brings. But, look, we just want to keep on getting better, Scott. We just want to keep on trying to be better property owners, better landlords to our residents, serve people the way we should be serving them. And then, of course, taking care of our investors.
Absolutely. So people want to learn more about you guys. What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I've got a podcast called Pillars of Wealth Creation. So after you're done listening to this podcast, of course, then you check out Pillars of Wealth. Our website is at enduruscapital.com. It's ENDURUS, and then capital, like money, .com. And then my email address is just my first name, Todd, at Endurus Capital.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Todd. It was really great chatting with you. I appreciate being on the show today.
Absolutely. You take care.
Thank you.